Hey everybody, and welcome to the Drafting Offers Podcast, the podcast where you get to vote for each episode's draft champ. We're realtors from Southern Ontario, but this is not another real estate podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, catch every episode on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on social at the Drafting Offers Podcast. Here are your hosts, Brad Warner, Scott Morgan, and John Fielding. Hey everybody, welcome to the Drafting Offers Podcast. John, Scott, Brad here with you again for another week of fun. It seems like we're in the middle of winter, but we are actually at the beginning of spring. And the beginning of spring is a hot time in real estate. We're seeing a lot of things happening. We're seeing a lot of movers and shakers kind of come out of the woodwork. And we're seeing some buyers and some sellers come out of the woodwork. And of course, we would not be a real estate podcast without a quick update on the real estate market. So I guess I'll send it over to you guys. What's been going on the last little while, fellers?
Yeah, I think we were chatting a little bit before we got on here, but every week Brad's been saying it's a little slow, but showings are picking up. So if you actually take the start of every episode, you're going to see a nice trend into Brad's market and how he's been complaining about how busy he is right now and how much is going on with showing. So tell us about that, Brad.
Send some of those buyers my way. I'm bored.
It's jammed, especially on the weekends. I'm so crazy full of showings, which is awesome. And I've gotten to see so many houses and working with so many buyers right now that are out there looking and actually putting in offers because there's lots of people out there looking right now. I don't know if it's just the change of the weather. It's not like there was a big interest rate drop or anything like that, but buyers maybe are a little more confident than they were before in the market in general. But as the weather got better, people were out there.
I'm hoping that while people are listening to this, they're driving along with the windows down and it is just warm. It is not. It is close to minus. There's snow on the ground. But that's an interesting conversation because I think we had at the start of the year, we've talked about it, that rates were not going to be going up anymore. And that got a lot of people, maybe some pent up demand that were waiting out. And then now spring's starting early. Like I took a picture because I had a robin on our fence sitting on some snow. Which I found very strange, but that means spring is here.
Just like a robin sitting on top of a snowbank. It's a little confusing right now in Ontario.
Yeah.
We'll just wing it.
But the weather does usually dictate a little bit. And we're also, keep in mind, post March break. So March break is usually when a lot of people say, we don't want to list during that week because a lot of people are away. And as I'm driving my son to daycare and around town, it was a ghost town. Cars are back, people are back. And if the weather's getting good, the weather was good leading into March break. So I think we saw a nice blip there. And I'm hoping that continues, but not maybe to the magnitude that some of these homes we've been seeing because we're getting 18 plus offers on entry level homes. What are you seeing out your way when you're in multiples, Brad?
We are seeing multiples. It's quite often we're seeing multiples. We're still not, seeing a lot of properties hold for the week and take multiples. We're not seeing that as much. We're still seeing like 48-hour irrevocable. So which is withholding offers because once that first offer starts, then there is an offer date and an offer time. So we are seeing that, especially things that are priced well, moved in, move-in ready, marketed properly, with all the information that the buyers need when they're looking at houses. We're seeing a lot of movement there. But I wanted to go back to really quick about the weather. And I know we only talk about real estate for the most part, but in my old life, in my old career, I was really involved with a summer event that I was a professional fundraiser and our big events were always in May, but June was actually the big month. And we relied on a lot of registration for this event. Registration was a huge part of it. And for those of you who don't know, it was called Relay for Life. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. A big factor for when we had registrations was the weather as well. Mm-hmm. And when the years would be better weather earlier in the year, we'd have earlier in the year registration. And when it would be bad for longer, it would be worse for longer, which was a nightmare for setting goals sometimes because we really were dependent on the weather. Because it's once the weather gets nice, people are happier and start moving more and are looking for things to do. And it seems really similar in the real estate market too.
Yeah, I think we're all in hibernation for so many months. We're wired and willy. So when the weather gets good, we kind of come out and look around. We're like, yeah, we should probably plan for spring and summer. No, the year is here. Finally, we can live.
Yeah.
So maybe everyone's just doing their things. They're booking their landscapers and their contractors and their vacation and summer plans and their houses that they need to sell that they're now sick of being in.
We didn't have like a particularly harsh winter here either, but it's just the perception of winter. It's just like that's the season where people kind of stay home and they kind of get things done around the house. I also find that a lot of people are looking online trying to get an idea of what the market is going to do in the spring. And then it's like, okay, it's spring now. It's supposed to be happening now. And people are kind of still waiting for that to happen. And they're asking us questions. They're like, when's this going to happen? When's that going to happen? Well, just because it's spring doesn't mean things are going to happen. But what it does drive is the consumer demand and the supply, which in turn will make changes to the financial aspect of it, right? So we'll see pricing kind of move around a little bit because people are out there moving themselves around.
My Realtor.ca updates are significantly higher. Not that they're ever low. Obviously, Realtor.ca is one of the most visited websites in the country, but I can tell you, like, my listings now compared to my listings 3 months ago, I get like the reports on how many people are looking at it on Realtor.ca, and it is significantly higher.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My last listing in the end of fall leading into Christmas last year was in around I think 10,000 views over the time that it was listed. That's kind of good, but it was also like a month and a half because nothing in that price range category was moving. I just got an update. Actually, it's funny you say that, from my photographer who has stats on views on like the link that he provides for the virtual tour. Mm-hmm. And it's 54,716. So that's almost insane. 5.5 times. And that was listed for 3 days. So
that's insane.
It's bonkers.
That's how many people live in my city.
Now there's repeat views and such in there, and but still that's an insane number. Mind you, it was a gorgeous listing and marketed well by a professional, but still, like, it's showing of the time. So we're getting there. We're coming out of hibernation. We're defrosting. And I think another thing that you were hitting on is the weather, but it's the hours of sunshine. The moment you get that time change, which every realtor likes to put their little don't forget about time. Like, what did people do before realtors were posting to remind you to change your clocks? I don't know.
Yeah, everybody was just late for things.
They They wake up and be like, what's happening? Things feel weird.
Yeah, I need a realtor to tell me what time it is.
Same thing goes for all the days in general, whether it's I think it was just International Women's Day or even like Valentine's Day. If it wasn't having realtors on Instagram, how would you even know?
You wouldn't know.
We're just desperate for content, aren't we?
How would you know that it's National Pizza Day if realtors?
Right, I was just going to say all the food holidays.
So I think people owe us a big thank you, and on behalf of all realtors, we say you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah,
that's what.
Except me, I don't post the days. I'm an anti-day poster.
Yeah, you're not much of a poster guy. Yeah.
Just my kids or my listings.
Just your kids or your listings. Work in real estate, but at least you're true to yourself, right? You're not telling people it's National Pasta Day.
Those are the types of posts, speaking of social, but those are the types of posts that don't really get a lot of engagement for me. The funny thing is about social media in general for me is that the stuff related to real estate, like actual listings, stats, open houses, those are the kinds of things, those get no engagement at all. People will see them and maybe just flip past them because it's like, another real estate post. And then when I post something funny or something like that's actually interesting, it's like, oh, hey, hi, look at that guy, John's here again. So anyway, I find that
my biggest engagement is usually other real estate agents.
Yeah, I don't see that.
It depends on what you're pumping out. Like nowadays, people with the TikTok craze and with reels and it's like Facebook's family and updates, I find, and then Instagram is more content and it's got to provide value. And if people if you're not able to stop that scroll, you're just going to get scrolled by. And we're seeing that too with our social posts. Like the ones that end up getting the most views are the reels that either it's our new episode dropping or our grid of voting or something funny. Like anything that's funny always seems to get more views and clicks and looks, but if we were to just post something on stats on real estate, no one cares.
Yeah, I mean, you can get those right from the source. You can get those anywhere, right? I mean, those are
realtors pumping out the same visual graphic of here's what's happening in the Durham region, and no one's taken the time to read those numbers.
Yeah, that's why I stopped posting them. I appreciate our brokerage for making those things available to us, but posting them is like, not really. It's a little off-brand for me.
But it's also
there's other ways. There's other ways
you can learn it. Or you can explain it for someone. Anyways, we're giving people just a guide to real estate social media. You're welcome.
Yeah. That's why we're
Yeah.
here, for the people.
Speaking of those realtors that are engaging with our posts, big shout out to a couple of my coworkers, Gail and Courtney, whose birthday is today, the day that we're recording. So
Hey, happy birthday.
last week, happy
Couple
birthday.
loyal listeners.
I at least for Gail, anyways. I don't know if Courtney listens, but she should. I'll tell her.
I've seen the names
today.
here and there on the vote.
When these are some of my, like, I would consider them coworker friends, and we're in the same industry, we relate to a lot. Do you guys think it's important to be, friends with other realtors, or I guess friendly with other realtors?
Friendly is the word.
Is it important to you?
For me, yes. I think that is something in an industry where the numbers are climbing and there's a lot of maybe bad buzz as to how easy it is to get your license, and any part-time person can be doing this job. To have relationships, especially with successful or agents that have businesses and have clientele, that's so important. So when you can sit down at the table on behalf of your buyer and say, these are my buyers, and the people on the other side of the table know you and know how you conduct business and know that you're professional, that carries a lot of weight. It can carry weight in the sense of, well, actually, I was in offer presentation 2 days ago. 3 offers came in. 1 came in at the very end, and the agent didn't show the property, didn't call the agent to ask if he had received the offer, didn't have any information on his clients. So if those offers are the same or even close, are you going to have more faith in the person you've been having conversations with for a day and you know everything about their clients with respect to their ability to purchase? Or the one that just came into your email, you've never heard of this person before? Those relationships, I think, are actually critical and something that needs to be brought up when you're sitting down with clients for the first time to say you have those relationships.
I think so too. I think it's a great. I'm actually, as an example, I'm working with a very particular buyer client right now, and she's had a lot of bad experiences with realtors, and I'm really kind of trying to change her opinion a little bit. But I'm trying to do it in a careful way so that I still maintain my professionalism and I still realize that there are still rules. There's still ground rules, there's guidelines, and there's laws when it comes to us doing our business. So I can't be breaking the laws. But I will say, though, that knowing who you're working with as far as another agent, like if I'm working with a buyer and I see a listed property that they're interested in, I might say, hey, I have a relationship with that agent already. I'll give them a call and see what the deal is. Because if she has a question that I may not be able to answer. But I mean, on the other side, if I have a really bad relationship with that other agent, that something bad has happened before, a deal kind of went south or whatever it was, bad feelings were left, and I'm going to see that person's name on the listing, I'm going to go, we really should kind of be careful going into this because that agent has a tendency to, whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to use any examples, but it does help knowing what you're going up against. And of course, being proactive and calling and saying like, hey, I just have a couple quick questions. I've got a buyer who's interested. Also wanted to introduce myself because you may see an offer from us in a little while. Like just opening up the door and saying, hi, I'm introducing myself first. This is me. I represent a buyer. Why don't we do that more in this industry? Why don't we because it's just become so digital? We just email and text, and we don't even have I've never met half the agents that I've done deals with.
Yeah,
true, right?
You can go there. There is times, especially when they are an out of town realtor, a GTA realtor, I guess, in what we would refer to them as. They when they are a GTA realtor, you do find sometimes you don't ever talk to them on the phone, and it's less personal. So, but at the same time, those are usually one-off deals. So they and what I mean by that is you probably won't ever work with them again. So maybe it is less important. But the reality is, in my market, which would be slightly different than your market, it's so important that you're not burning bridges with these other people and treating them poorly.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, because
for one deal, because what goes around comes around.
100%.
Small town.
You want to refer business too, right? I mean, you want to maintain that relationship so that if something happens and maybe you have a buyer, maybe you're working out of your area. If it happens again, you can say, I know a great agent in whatever, Belleville. I know a great agent in Vaughan. I know a great, I have good friends that are, so you can kind of refer back and forth.
Yeah. For business wise, for us, I guess, for me being, really genuine and friendly with an out of town realtor, it could return me possibly clicking on more clients. But as far as when I'm representing my buyers and dealing with someone or sellers, it's so important to keep that friendly. And a good example is, just 2 weeks ago, I did an offer on a property. My client purchased a townhouse. It was really great. It all went smooth, friendly the whole time. We're obviously have the best interest of our people, but it worked out well. And then a week later, different buyers, the same listing agent, we got an accepted offer. And it gives some sort of, it gives confidence to that listing agent to go to them and say, well, there is conditions on this, but Brad just got this done last week. I'm sure that's a conversation they have. And
it's funny you say that, though.
Yeah.
That happened to me last year. And within 2 weeks, I did a deal, 2 deals with the same agent. But he was on the listing end both times. And the second time I came in, it went so well. And like being above board, showing that you're a good realtor that has a background on their client. It made the second one that much easier. We were in multiple offers, but at the same time, as much as you can't push someone one way or the other, that did hold weight in the decision on the next one, because they had an agent that was not great. No information, seemed a little sketchy with it actually closing or it coming together. So our offer, which was a little less, was able to get accepted. So I think there's so much to that.
You want to have that relationship with somebody that you can kind of go for a beer with later on. You know what I mean? Like one day just to say, why don't we hit a patio one day and talk about this? Or maybe there's a, business opportunity. And so
speaking of patios, we got a heck of a draft this week. We wanted to do it for last episode for St. Patty's, but we had a feeling that the start of spring was maybe the time for this, because patios mean patio beers. And now we get our chance to chat beers. This has zero to do with real estate, other than maybe sometimes we have a celebratory cold one or cutting the edge off a stressful day one. But this week will be
hide under the desk type of beer. Yeah.
So I'm gonna get John to break this one down. This one's gonna be a category draft. So we'll need one from each category. And John, do you want to break those down?
We want to celebrate a lot of the craft breweries that are here in our area, in like the Belleville, Quinte region, Eastern GTA, the Durham region, Toronto, and even some in the West End. So we want to talk about craft beer, but we don't want to leave some of the big, strong key players in the business out. So I think the categories for this one will be Ontario craft beer. It will be our go-to draft beer. So wherever we are, let's see what's on, what do you have on tap? I'll take that, kind of our go-to draft. Our best outdoor beer, patio beer, garage beer, hanging with friends on the, first day of spring beer, that kind of thing. And then our favorite import beer. So anything that's not Canadian, not Ontario. And then our favorite beer out of a bottle, just our favorite strong kind of rip that bottle open, cheers, kind of a, a favorite bottled beer. So those are our 5 categories. So we're going to kick this off with the wheel of names. See who gets
I know there's probably a national beer day, but when that first like really warm day that you can go maybe even in shorts to a patio, that is national beer day.
The first 100% flop day.
I was hoping that we would have, and I'm sorry if my screen's not here because I'm sharing, but I was really hoping that we would do the situational times, like the best time to have the beer, because my favorite is when we have, let's say, our guys' golf trip or that weekend where you've been looking forward to getting away with the guys, or you're going to the cottage and you get there and you've put your stuff down, you got your room, and you just crack that first one. You're going, oh man, I got a whole weekend ahead of me. This one's good. Tomorrow's might not feel as good, but this is great. So Wheel of Names lead the way for the order.
Hotel beer, that would be another one too.
John Fielding.
I'm gonna take the first pick. I'm gonna give Brad the second pick. I'm gonna give Scott the third pick, because Brad's not a huge beer guy, we've discovered. He's a bit of a beer guy, not a huge beer guy. So let's.
John's trying to sink me at the end, eh?
I think I might be the least beer guy on the.
Yeah, well, in university, you used to say that you would always be drinking Ryan Gingies. That was your big one. So yeah, not a huge beer guy, but you have dabbled, and you'll be.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Okay,
so go ahead, Johnny, lead us off. First pick of the beer draft.
I got to go with I'm going to go with the go-to draft. First one. The first one's going to be a go-to draft. Okay, so my go-to draft is Guinness.
John,
I have to. I've done the Ireland thing. I've had the Guinness in Ireland. I've got the Guinness here. I know how to pour the proper thing with the proper amount of head on it. Guinness and me have a long-standing relationship, and so I would be remiss if I didn't actually pick Guinness in a beer draft. And I'm sorry, but
I guess I'm still in that mindset of like it's getting nice out and warmer out. The warmer out, I'm not having that Guinness. When I think of a Guinness, I'm like, it's snowing outside, and I'm kind of like wearing a hoodie. That's
a non-beer drinker conversation. I'm gonna sell John's pick for him even more. If you're
Guinness
talking
is a rainy pub drink.
a lot of these beers are better in different ways. And you're not drinking a beer out of a can. You don't want to. You pour it in a glass. If you're going to have the best type of Guinness, it's going to be draft.
Yeah.
It is poured a certain way. The brewery is shaped like the glass. Like there's so much that this is my favorite beer. I'm losing this draft because I'm in shambles right now. Because
there's lots of others.
Yeah, that the wheel of names has not been kind in 2024 to me. It's a great pick. I think
the votes have been kind to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, nice pick.
All right.
Your draft is off the table, and my draft is in shambles.
This is probably going to show my hand of not being the biggest beer guy in the world, but I'm going to go with the patio beer. I like a nice cold Rickards White. Love the Rickards White. I'm a Rickards White guy. On the patio, you get the little orange on the side of it. I guess if I'm going out and I'm sitting on a patio and maybe just having a couple beers, Rickards White is probably what I'm going to order.
Mm-hmm.
I like that order. I think you chose that in the wrong category.
I know that there's another option there, but I feel like I had more in that one. So it's draft. It would be a draft. It would be a Rickards White draft on a patio with a little lemon or a little orange.
Orange.
On it.
Yeah. That was always a nice little treat when you got that orange. The white beers or the Heffenweizen. Anyways, I'm not.
There's a heavy hitter in that category. I won't mention what it is, but
there's actually two.
I know.
Which I think I might have to go down that lane now because again, not feeling confident. But yeah, patio beer off the board for Brad. My outdoor beer, I think is like I think of warmth. I think of summer. If I've just cut the lawn and I'm out back, I'm grabbing a Corona. Grabbing a nice Corona for my outdoor beer. So
that's what I thought. Beer. I get that.
My only hesitation there was that there's another area you could have picked it, but I think there's something else that I got lined up for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm disappointed. I think draft is wide open now because I think the 1-1's off the board. So I'm going to take a local Ontario because I wanted to stay true to myself. I love Town Brewery. If I were to actually say the type of beer that they have, whatever they do well. Mm-hmm. So Town Brewery is out of South Whitby. If you're from out of town, if you don't know, this is maybe not going to win me the draft, but it's one where I think there needs to be more buzz about them from anyone who is not from the Durham region. But their beers are so good. If you like IPAs, you can't beat it. They did open up spots. It's a pump house that's by the lake in Whitby. That's outdoors completely. So in the summertime, come to the waterfront. It's awesome. But Town Brewery, I want to clip this clip just to give a big thumbs up for making nice beer. Because when I do, I periodically unfollow them because when they have new releases, I ended up going to the brewery to pick them up like once every week or two just to get a couple. But I was finding I was drinking way more beer than I needed. So big ups to Town Brewery for Ontario Craft Brewery.
Yeah, I should have worn my Town Brewery hat today too. I'm a big fan of theirs as well. Good people there, good place, like good spot just to kind of hang, good entertainment, snacks, things like that.
Tuesday trivia. The other thing about them is because they're a microbrewery, they have releases all the times, and they'll have funny names. They've had Seinfeld names. Just of their beers. Like the one was called Couch Full of Dads, one's called Den Full of Dads. I don't think they do those ones anymore, but just creative names. So keep an eye out for them at the local LCBO.
All right. I am going to go with a bottle, and I'm going to go with Heineken. I'm going to have Heineken. I don't mind it in a bottle. I like it in a bottle.
Yeah. I mean, it's green. It's distinct. I think everyone's going to know Heine.
I don't know. I've only ever had... I've had a couple. I actually had a couple Heinekens the other night, and just because it was sort of the only thing that was there. But I don't know if I've ever had Heineken in a bottle. It always seems to be a can thing for me. But
a big tall green one,
big tall green, yeah, big tall boy green can. I don't know. That's always just what I think of when I think of Heineken. But it's good beer.
Heineken off. So here's a question. So once a beer is gone, it can't be in another category.
No.
Correct?
No. I would have taken Corona there, guys.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Once it's gone, it's gone.
I would have actually I should have asked that before because I would have taken my patio drink because that is a nice refreshing one.
Yeah, or I would have just went Rickards White for a few options.
Yeah, big Rickards White guy. Guy loves his
I probably haven't had one in 4 or 5 years.
My next pick is going to be a Crest. This is my second pick, second round. This is All or Nothing Brewhouse. just around the corner down the street from me, All or Nothing Brewhouse. Down on Ritson in Oshawa used to be a beer store. And now they do some fantastic beers there. So they've got, I don't know how many varieties they've got right now, but I mean, you can always get them to go. They've got a great tap room. I took a lot of pictures there actually. And they've got a games area with shuffleboard and a great patio. But it's a great brew house. It's a great local spot just to hang, and their beers are fantastic. A little on the hoppier side, again, sort of like Town. It's a microbrewery, so they can do things kind of, their turnover's quick. So there's always new varieties there, and sometimes there's food, pizzas and things like that. So All or Nothing Brewhouse here in Oshawa is my.
I've heard of it. I think I've heard of it.
I got their hats too. I should have worn my.
If you look at some of John's branding, I don't know if you just mentioned this, but you'll notice that some of it is at All or Nothing. They got some cool artwork on the wall, and
yep, yeah. They've got a
Johnny's
big mural,
big supporter.
So I like, I like them. So that's my craft. I'm gonna go with a patio beer. This is kind of the outdoor. All right, this is more of like a crowd pleaser. Because a patio beer, you can kind of you can sort of crush and kind of, walk around a little bit. So my patio beer is a big old can of Budweiser. And I know it's like
a Bud Heavy.
A Bud Heavy.
Bud Heavy, not a Bud Light. Bud Heavy, yes. Yeah, Bud Heavy. The red and white can, not the blue can. And it's just, again, it's, hey, look, I know guys that just drink nothing but Bud because it's just what they've been drinking for years. And hey, it's a quality brew. It's okay. It's a big one. It's a big player, but it's a quality beer. So
I feel like it. I feel like if I'm in the state, if I'm in the U.S., if I'm gonna go buy like a 30 rack, I'm gonna get the Bud Heavies. I don't know why, but it just seems so. Yeah, I'm a Bud Heavy guy. I'm getting a 30 rack.
Yeah, because it's $18 at Costco in the States. That's why.
Yeah, if you're getting a suitcase of beer, you got to go with something that isn't heavy. I find I go the opposite. It'd be like well, I won't actually say the other things because they have not been chosen. We don't tip picks here. So
okay, so no one's taken an import beer yet, eh?
No one has taken an import beer yet.
I'm going to take an import beer, even though I don't think you guys are even going to take this one. As far as import beers go, there was like a Belgian one that I really did want, but I couldn't remember the name. So I'm moving on to another one I think is I would define as like a crispier beer that I like, and it's Sapporo.
Love Sapporo. It is crispy. It's a crispy boy.
It's crispy. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's crispy.
It is.
And it's
definitely imported. They had a pretty cool commercial where it was going through the whole bottle. And
is it the one that
playing the drums? Really intense, but kind of made you want to have about 10 Sapporos through a wall, right?
Well, Sapporo is it's a Sleeman brand, I think so. I don't know if they make it in Canada, but Sapporo and Sleeman are now the same company.
Oh, okay.
So there's
it's
more
kind of like
Anheuser-Busch
that's buying, they buy up, or Labatt's that they buy 1 million, so.
Yeah, InBev is the big one. Molson Coors, InBev, and then Sleeman Sapporo. I forget what the name of that company is now, but it's there's a couple of big players, unfortunately, and not too many. Well, a lot of small ones, unfortunately, not too many big ones.
I put 0 into my imports. I actually don't even know. I might have to, while you guys are picking your picks, look into if the one I have in mind is an import.
All right.
I know my next 2 picks already, and it's going to give away who I am, but I'm ready to finish this draft up.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So
I got patio beer. I got an Ontario Craft. I'm going to take a bottle. I do prefer bottles over cans, and if I'm going to go with a bottle, rather than just take something that could be good anyway, I'm going to take the one that you think of when it's in a bottle, and I'm going to take a Red Stripe. I'm going to take a little stubby, a little red stripe. You know the beer when you see it, coming from Jamaica, and having it in Jamaica was kind of cool. And you're sitting on the beach and you got the brown bottle, kind of takes you back to our parents' era. But Red Stripe will be my bottle.
Yep.
Is that what your parents drank? Red Stripe?
No, back in the day, a lot of bottles were stubbies, that was what they were made in, right?
So, up until the 80s, pretty recently, even a lot of beers up until even the late 80s were in stubbies. Red Stripe.
There was another one I had in mind, but that's not gonna. And then I'm gonna go with my draft next. Again, something you're gonna want it on draft as opposed to other options. My draft beer is between 2, so pick a hand: open sign or other side.
Open.
So that is going to be a Hoegaarden.
Oh,
yeah.
that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one I was saying when he said
that was the
when he
one.
said Rickard's
Yeah.
White. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a wheat beer with the orange slice. Yeah, Hoegaarden.
Mhm.
There is one more in there, but I think this is maybe the more well-known. It has a very distinct, huge glass. I remember my first time having it was when Brad and I were on a group trip to Chicago, and I ordered it from a bar near Wrigleyville, and this thing was in a goblet, and I'm just going, this is my drink this week, and yeah. Definitely,
you can't have too many of those. You can't have
many headaches.
That's headache central. Yeah,
big time. But Hoegaarden is off the table.
Yeah, that's one that you can't really drink out of a bottle. You got to pour it. It's like a Guinness. It has a specific way of pouring it.
I don't know if I drank beer in Chicago. Now that I think about it,
how do you go to Chicago and not drink beer?
Well, you mix drinks:
vodka, Red Bull, and Gatorade.
That'll do it.
Oh yeah, the Tucker Max Death Mix. My goodness.
My next two picks are basically just blowing the draft for me, but you know what? I got to be true to myself, and people will know who this is based on these next two picks, at least my last pick. But this one is the draft beer one, and I'm going with the apricot beer at the Merchant Ale House in St. Catharines.
That one very specific beer.
I don't know if they sell beers.
You're going to get a vote from like
Corey Magner.
Thing is, you chose Corey will probably, but you didn't even choose his favorite. That's the problem.
It's my favorite though. I'm being true to myself. The apricot beer is that's probably my favorite beer in the whole world, and I don't think they sell it anywhere else, but the Merchant Ale House, downtown St. Catharines.
Yeah, I can't choose it, and John would never because he's never heard of
it.
It's the blueberry beer at the Merchant Ale House that is just next level. You would get it.
Not me.
It's a little heavier, like the Rickard's White, but they'd actually dangle in some blueberries. So if you were feeling no pain and took a sip, you had to be careful because you could be swallowing a mouthful of blueberries. But that's a special drink, and that's a great choice.
When I was in university, I'd have to stand outside of the building directly across from the Merchant Ale House for hours, and it would make me so thirsty thinking those people in there were having the apricot beer.
Poor Brad. All right. Well, all right. Class trip to St. Catharines one of these days.
Yeah.
Okay.
I made a bad choice here. The one that I thought was an import was brewed in America. So that's
brewed in America. That's
actually the one I just chose. Hoegaarden, import. Did I choose it for import? No.
Well, I can. I think I have an import left. I still have a couple here. So I think if we're back to me for 4 and 5, I will put this to bed with my import, and my import is going to be Peroni from Italy. Yeah. If I can't take Sapporo or any other ones, or Red Stripe, I'm going to go Peroni. Peroni is just it's crispy, a little like a Sapporo. Goes great with a pasta, goes great with any Italian food. It's a wonderful Italian beer. There's a few around, but I think Peroni is kind of your big boy. Yeah,
I like those. I like those.
Anytime I go, you guys ever been to Scottabouche? You know, Scottabouche Italian with the fresh mozzarella and the homemade pasta and all that kind of stuff.
The matzo balls?
Oh, so good.
With the salt.
I had one of those a couple weeks ago, and a ball of Peroni on the side. So that's going to be my import. Now, I should have picked that as my bottled beer, but I think the bottled beer is going to have to be Asahi. And Asahi is another Japanese beer.
That's really going up against Sapporo.
It is. It's like it's kind of Sapporo's main competitor, but Asahi hasn't really kind of taken off. You can get it at a lot of sushi places. You can get it in a bottle. You know, it's just a dark bottle with a black label. They do a lot of sponsorship and things like that in Japan. But Asahi, I don't think I've ever seen it in a can or on tap. I've only ever had Asahi in a bottle.
They sell them at the LC. I've seen them at the LCBO. They're like silver with black writing, like nothing fancy about it.
It's just pretty standard. Yeah, it's just like it's just basic Japanese. Here it is.
Yeah, I like it.
This is our beer. Like it or don't. Yeah, it's Asahi. So my import was Peroni, and to put this one to bed for me, my bottle beer was Asahi. Arigato.
Those are good. Good picks. Good picks.
I can't say I've had one.
No?
Asahi. You should try.
What would you compare it to? Is it very
Sapporo?
Compare it to Sapporo, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right. They go right up against each other. I bet the only difference, Sapporo's got a bigger marketing budget in Canada, probably.
It's because they're a Canadian. Yeah. They're partnered with a Canadian brand now.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
Right,
With my last pick,
off the board.
this is also one. It indicates who's the one that's picking on the numbers, but I'm going to go with the McKinnon brothers as my Ontario craft beer.
Friends of yours?
Yeah, my boys, the McKinnon. They're in the LCBO. They have like a harvest ale and a red ale. They're actually out of Bath. So This is one of those ones maybe I thought was really popular, but it might just be more of a local thing. McKinnon Brothers will get me the votes around in the eastern part of Ontario, whereas you guys are going to maybe split those Durham votes with your crafts.
Towns,
right.
Not stretching far probably, but
I would have went with the maybe a Prince Edward County one, but the reality is McKinnon Brothers around here I think is the biggest. So I thought they were bigger than they probably are, judged on the reactions of you guys.
No,
I just haven't heard of
it. Yeah.
But have you heard of Bath, Ontario?
Yeah.
It's beautiful there. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. Sorry for the Asahi. I was not in that conversation because I was doing some research to make sure, and it turns out this beer is an import beer. I think it could be chosen on the draft one really well because if you look at the commercials, when you pour the draft, they have this special like little butter knife that like cuts the foam off the top. I'm gonna go with a Stella Artois.
Stella.
Yeah, Stella's good.
Stella.
Used to be a very upscale bar in our university town that we rarely went to because we did not have proper dress attire to get in, probably because we were poor. But Stella's was a big Brock University spot. So Stella.
When it comes to just a little quick story about Stella is that they've got a very specific pouring process as well. And they tried to market that pouring process a number of years ago, and they started selling these little doilies that go, because it's a chalice, right? So the Stella glass is a chalice with a little flange at the bottom, almost like a wine goblet. Well, a goblet kind of. And then so they've got this like...
I think people got it.
I think people know the Stella thing.
Yeah,
but
100%.
They show the little like the beheading, and they've got a little thing, and then you dunk it in water, and there's a whole process to like pouring a glass of Stella. And the funny thing is, in North America, we take a lot of that stuff seriously because it's an import beer and it's fancy. But in Europe, it's just like another run-of-the-mill like soccer beer. Like it's just a throw cans.
I think that's common with a lot
beer.
of European beers. I know. I'll never forget. My brother lived in Australia for like 6 months, and when he first got there, he's like, "I got to get a beer." So they went, and he's like, "I'm gonna get a Foster's." And the guy looked at him. He's like, "Why do you want that?" I'm not even going to say the word because but basically it's not good. It's not something that it's kind of one of their cheaper beers, but we know it as the marketed Australian beer. So a lot of the times, same thing with St. Paddy's Day in Ireland. It's a day there, but it's not taken as alcoholically as it is here.
Well,
that's every day there, though.
I've been to St. Patrick's, so I've been to Ireland for St. Patrick's Day a few times, and there's no green beer in sight. None whatsoever. They think it's ridiculous. Or why would you do green beer? Like that's just silly. Guinness, they've got Guinness. They've got a lot of other Irish beers there. Just more. But
are the university students just taking the day off, putting a kegger on their front lawn with a slip and slide, and just getting after it?
No. That happens in Boston and Chicago. That's not a Dublin
St. Catharines, Ontario. Yeah,
St. Catharines. Yeah.
Just real deep dive into Brad and I's life. Yeah.
All right.
So let me go over the list here. We can do a really quick drafting room floor, and Brad, who's so busy, has to get onto his day. So
I literally don't have a drafting room floor because every single thing I wrote down was taken.
All right, John, your draft beer was Guinness. Your Ontario was All or Nothing. Your patio beer was Bud Heavy. You had an import of Peroni, and your bottle was Asahi. Brad, you have Rickard's White as your patio beer, Heineken as your bottle, your import is Sapporo, your draft is Apricot from the Merchant Ale House, St. Catharines, Ontario, and your Ontario craft is McKinnon Bros. Scott, the patio beer was Corona, the Ontario was Town, bottle was Red Stripe, draft was Hoegaarden, and the import was Stella. So Brad, you're out of this conversation because he's just said you don't have any on the draft room floor, but I feel like John probably has a plethora.
I got a couple. Well, I just kind of looked at my list of craft beers and the merchandise that I have in my closet, and I was like, All or Nothing Town Brewery. That kind of covers Whitby and Oshawa. Falcon Breweries in Ajax. Brock Street is another one in Whitby. Muddy York, I really like their beer. That's Toronto. Henderson Brewery is partnered with Rush, one of my favorite bands. Old Flame in Port Perry, great beer, great place to hang out as well. Mill Street, they've got a couple places, of course, is Toronto. Five Paddles, Whitby. Banter and Company is in Brooklyn. I'm surprised, Scott, that didn't come up in your draft. Second wedge.
Gotta be true to myself, John.
Second wedge is in Uxbridge. Bo's Brewery. I love Bo's Lug Tread. That's Van Cleef Hill out in the.
That was a good bottle choice, actually.
That was a good one, yeah.
Cowbell's great in Blythe, Ontario. Left Field is from Toronto. Refined Fool in Sarnia. Skeleton Park in Kingston, and Steam Whistle, kind of still considered a craft in Toronto. And then my internationals, I think most of them have been taken, except for maybe Kilkenny Smithwick's. When I was in the Dominican, I was drinking a lot of Presidente. That's their national beer, and that was a decent one. Maybe Grolsch. Grolsch was the other one with that kind of growler bottle with the swing top with the thing. So that's my draft.
That Grolsch is another one of those green bottles that, like, a lot of those green bottles I always found tasted skunky. I've grown to kind of like them, certain ones, but Grolsch is just gross for me.
It has to do with how they're stored. There's a science to the color and storage and things like that.
We chatted about this.
All right.
I think you've gotten a lot of the good ones. Left Field was one that I really like because, I mean, the baseball reference very close to my brother's place. Publican Ale House out in Peterborough. If you're ever there, their beers are fantastic. They have one called, I think it's something Paddle Ale, and some of the proceeds from that go to their canoe museum, but their food, if you're ever in Peterborough, awesome. Collective Arts has some really, really good beers. Really like Flying Monkeys for their IPAs, if you're into that. Actually, Brad and I have a friend who works for Indie Ale House. There's some really good beers there. Actually, one that I didn't even realize he created. It was called I think Tyrannosaurus Rex, which should have put it together because his name's Tyler. Black Lab in Toronto, which is close to the beaches. You can actually bring your dog.
Yeah.
And actually one that I've gotten to know in Bob Cajun, where my parents are, it's called Old Dog. So it's a pretty cool one. Beers are nice. And if you actually send a picture of the beer and your dog and send it to their social media, they make these little plaques and put them all around the top so your dog can be featured in their brewery. So
super cool.
Big, and then Muskoka, it's a bigger one, but they have some nice beers as well. So that was more for the local. And then if we're talking bottle beer, I mean, Corona's the one, but I think it's nice. Cousin would be like a nice MGD is good. It's good on draft as well. So just one that I don't really think about. It kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, the more I think about it, that Indie Ale House is probably my favorite craft brewery. It might be the best beer ever made.
Could be. Really pumping Indie Ale House. They also are a nice supporter of our annual golf trip. There ends up being a few cases of the Indie in the fridge.
Maybe there'll be a nice supporter.
I said Indie in the fridge.
It's one that you could have 20 of, or you could just sip on one. It's either or.
This is tough because it's not even lunchtime, and I just am ready for a Friday patio beer. And it's there's no patios open. It's not Friday, and it is still the morning. Nothing is open. So
it's time to go.
We will post this. Make sure to hop on to our Instagram. Subscribe so you don't miss the episode, and give us a vote because we've been getting more votes in, but the more votes, the better. It gets closer and closer. Yeah, last week's winner was myself for what was that one? Just cut this.
Good Neighbors. Good Neighbors.
I feel like you guys are just angry at me every time we start, so you forget to talk about the winners. But yeah, all right. Thanks for listening. Have a good day, guys, and we'll chat soon.
Absolutely. Bye. Take care, guys. You've been listening to the Drafting Offers Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at the Drafting Offers Podcast and vote for this week's draft champ. That's also how you can get directly in touch with us if you have any questions about this week's show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and catch every episode on Spotify. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we can't wait for you to join us again for another episode of the Drafting Offers Podcast.